Thank you for joining us on the One Family podcast, where we encourage and equip families for the marriage and parenting journey. Each week, we share practical insights and real-life encouragement to help you strengthen relationships, navigate challenges with confidence, and build a home where love and connection thrive. Today, we're talking about something every family wrestles with at some level, and that's time. More specifically, what it looks like to honor time in our homes, our relationships, and in the way we parent our children. There's a quote by Harvey Mackay that really captures this well. Time is free, but it's priceless. You can't own it, but you can use it. You can't keep it, but you can spend it. Once you've lost it, you can never get it back. As parents, time often feels like one of the hardest things to manage. There never seems to be enough of it. But over the years, we began realizing something very important. We usually make time for the things we truly value and what matter most. And to be truthful, that realization was both challenging and transformative for us and our family.
When our boys were 5 and 3 years old, we took a parenting class authored by Gary and Anne-Marie Ezzo. In that class, they introduced a concept called the preciousness of others. The idea was simple but very powerful. Every person is valuable to God and should be treated accordingly. At first, that sounds encouraging and uplifting, but the more we thought about it, the more it exposed areas where we were falling short, especially in how we handled time. We started noticing how stress, rushing, poor planning, distractions, and our selfish habits affected the people around us. Sometimes we were late because we overcommitted ourselves. Sometimes we were impatient because we hadn't left any margin in our schedules. And sometimes we were too distracted or hurried to really engage with one another. That was convicting because we realized honoring people also includes honoring their time. When we consistently run late, procrastinate, or live in constant chaos, other people usually absorb the consequences. Time stewardship is not just about productivity, it's also about love and respect and thoughtfulness. That perspective shifted something deeply in our home. One of the biggest areas we had to work through personally was punctuality. For years, being on time was a struggle for me. I wanted to be punctual, but my personality naturally leaned spontaneous, easygoing, and flexible. So structure didn't come naturally to me, and I often underestimated how long things would take. Meanwhile, punctuality really mattered a lot to Rich, so this became a recurring frustration point in our marriage. What finally helped me wasn't simply trying harder. It was learning to become more intentional and proactive. I realized I needed routines and systems that supported success instead of constantly relying on my last-minute efforts. At the time, Rich had already left for work early in the mornings, and I was trying to get myself ready for work, get the boys ready, fed, dressed, and out the door to preschool on time. Most of our mornings felt stressful and chaotic. So instead of continuing to repeat the same pattern, I stopped and evaluated what wasn't working. One of the biggest changes we made was incredibly simple. The boys got dressed and brushed their teeth immediately after waking up and before coming downstairs for breakfast. Just that one adjustment changed the entire flow of our mornings. We also started preparing backpacks, clothes, lunches, and anything else we needed the night before. Suddenly, our mornings were a lot calmer and more predictable, and that was huge. Another major mindset shift was deciding that our goal was no longer arriving right on time. Instead, I began aiming to arrive 10 to 15 minutes early. That extra margin made a huge difference because parenting always includes something unexpected, like someone spills something, they can't find their shoe, or someone melts down at the last minute. Building margin into our schedules dramatically lowered the stress in our home. And one thing we learned is this: children don't just need structure, they need more peaceful rhythms. The emotional atmosphere of a rushed home affects everyone in the home.
As we continued growing in this area, we realized honoring time wasn't only about punctuality or routines. We also needed to evaluate what we were actually giving our time to. That's because it's possible to stay incredibly busy while neglecting what matters most. So we began asking ourselves some hard questions. Are we overscheduling our family? Are we rushing from activity to activity without margin? Are we protecting time for connection? Are we investing in the relationships that matter most? Those conversations led us to intentionally prioritizing things that strengthened our family relationships and our home environment. We became a lot more intentional about our practices like couch time, family meal time, which you may remember we mentioned in our very first podcast episode, date nights, and family fun nights. These rhythms became anchors for our family. And the amazing thing was how much peace entered our home when we simplified and became more intentional. We definitely felt less scattered, less reactive, and probably most importantly, less emotionally exhausted. There was more harmony in our marriage, more meaningful conversation with our boys, and more room for laughter and connection. I think many families today generally love one another deeply, but they're living at such a frantic pace they barely have space to enjoy one another anymore. And when families constantly live in survival mode, stress levels rise quickly. Patience becomes thinner, conflict increases, emotional connection decreases. We discovered that margin matters, emotionally, spiritually, relationally, and practically. Sometimes the healthiest thing a family can do is slow down enough to actually see each other again. One thing we also realized was that family culture doesn't happen accidentally. The rhythms we create shape the atmosphere of our homes. If everything feels rushed, chaotic, and disconnected, that eventually affects everyone emotionally. But when families intentionally create rhythms of connection, even simple things like a shared meal or protected conversation time, it changes the emotional environment of the home. It actually adds to the harmony of the home. Simplifying our schedule helped us to become more present. Instead of always thinking about the next thing, we could actually enjoy the moment we were in. And that was a huge shift for our family.
As we worked on these habits ourselves, we also began intentionally teaching our boys about honoring time. One principle that became very clear to us was this: what we were modeling mattered a lot. Our children were learning far more from what they observed than from what we simply told them. So we tried to model good stewardship of time consistently, and we talked about why it mattered. We would explain things like, we want to leave early because we respect other people's time. We prepare tonight so tomorrow morning goes smoothly. And being punctual is one way we show honor and thoughtfulness to other people. Over time, our boys began connecting time stewardship with loving others well, and that was so important. One simple tool that helped tremendously was using the 5-minute warning. Parents, I know this sounds so simple, but it really does help children transition successfully. Instead of abruptly interrupting play or activities, we would give gentle reminders. Okay, 5 more minutes. Now 2 more minutes. It's time to wrap up now and get going. This created a smoother environment and helped them gradually develop awareness, responsibility, and self-discipline. When they were younger, we also used timers to help them build an internal sense of time and organization. These small habits shape important character qualities over time. It shapes responsibility, self-discipline, thoughtfulness, respect, and consideration for others. And those are qualities that serve children for life, and they serve all of us for life. One thing I also want to encourage parents with is this: growth in this area happens gradually. You don't have to overhaul your entire life overnight. You do have to give yourself some grace here. Sometimes the biggest changes come from small, consistent shifts, like preparing the night before, building margin into your mornings, protecting family meal times and reducing overscheduling, or simply slowing down enough to be emotionally present. These things will help you be successful. These small acts of intentionality create lasting fruit in the family. Summertime is also such a great time to evaluate what's working and not working because things are just a lot less hectic, and it'll help you have time to make the necessary adjustments.
At the heart of all of this, honoring time is really about honoring people. It's about recognizing the preciousness of others and understanding that how we use our time affects the atmosphere of our home and the quality of our relationships. When we become more intentional with our time, we create more room for peace, connection, joy, and emotional health within our families. Colossians 4:5 says, "Behave wisely toward outsiders, making the best use of our time." This verse reminds us that time is a gift and a responsibility. None of us will manage time perfectly. Family life is full of interruptions, surprises, and messy moments. But small, intentional changes can create meaningful transformation over time. Maybe for your family, that might be simplifying your schedule, creating better routines, preparing ahead, protecting family connection, or simply building more margin into your day. And maybe one of the biggest mindset shifts is realizing that slowing down is not wasting time. Sometimes slowing down is exactly what allows us to notice what matters most. When we live in constant hurry, we often miss opportunities for meaningful conversation, emotional connection, encouragement, laughter, and spiritual growth. But when we intentionally honor time, we begin creating a home environment where people feel seen, valued, and loved. And ultimately, that's what we want in our home and what we want it to become.
Thanks for joining us today on the One Family Podcast. We hope this conversation encouraged you and gave you practical tools you can apply as we head into summertime. If this episode was helpful, be sure to share it with another parent who also might need this encouragement right now. And remember, you don't have to parent perfectly to parent purposefully. We'll see you next time.